And we're proud of him.
Proud of
you,
I'm just
Mo.
chilling, bro.
Bro.
2 for 5 at your local gas station.
Just chilling, bro.
Bruh.
It's like a fucking sheep.
Hey.
Bruh.
Like, bruh, is that a fucking sheep?
Bruh. That sheep just said bruh to me, bruh. Bruh.
Oh man.
Well, I'm
animals.
just gonna come right out and say it.
Brian ditched us.
Brian's dead.
Yeah. Whoa.
He's gone.
Yeah.
That's why he's not here. He's I named this stream Ode to Brian. He's gone.
Ode to
He's in a better place.
You know, it's really sad because Brian had a special place in my heart, and to see him pass like he did,
What?
on his back with a dildo up his ass was just
It's
so sad.
It's just
It was still vibrating too, if I remember.
still vibrating his whole body, just like gyrating with it.
I think I think the setting was on 10. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you could hear that thing from like a mile away.
Bro,
you know,
please stop. I'm gonna pee myself.
you would you would hope for any of your friends that they would die with dignity, but not Brian. There was no dignity in the way he went.
Oh.
As his mom said,
face down, ass up, eyes rolled back,
Covered in baby
that's-
oil.
covered in baby oil.
What? As his mom said, it just sounded like somebody was doing jackhammer work in the bedroom. And
Yeah.
Oh, no.
The whole thing. Well, and his body was like that for like a day and a half. They thought there was just construction going on, and they finally opened the door and just
Oh, bro's getting his cheeks clapped
Just
automatically.
again and again and again.
This stream brought to you by Duracell.
By Durham.
But what a way to go.
It was
Yeah,
just
what a way to,
plugged
like
into the
a
wall.
real champ. I mean, it's impressive. I'm not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
What?
It's as impressive
don't
as
wa-
it is grotesque.
I don't want none of that. None of that action. No.
That's in your brain now, Mo. Can't get rid of that shit.
Well, and unfortunately, rigor mortis set in, so they couldn't move his body. So just like that's just how they're gonna have to bury him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Face down, ass up. That's how you gotta get buried now.
Yeah, like, right. You know, that's just the way he's going to be buried. It's going to be a very awkwardly shaped coffin. It's going to be a little bit wider because they're going to have to lay him on his side. But the thing is that most people don't realize is that when you die, contrary to popular belief, your sphincter actually shrinks. So they actually had to use a pry bar to get the.
See,
to get
I
the
heard they had to bring out the jaws of life to do it. I mean,
on his rectum.
On his rectum. Yeah, usually what they use to like tear the door off a car and it's rough.
Yeah, and
Well,
I
it
heard
was
they
that
had a
powerful,
second
you
when
know?
The first one broke.
No.
It was
Yeah.
just it was like trying to open up a tank.
Well,
It's just
the power of the sphincter is unknown to this day.
Unknown.
But you know what? Cheers to Brian.
Cheers.
He
You know
did a lot
what?
of stuff.
Cheers to
You know what?
Brian.
Cheers to Brian. Cheers.
Wherever
Cheers to
you
Brian.
are, probably hell, buddy. We miss you.
Probably hell.
Yeah. So with that said, I'm the bartender this week, Mike, and I've got my boys with me. Introduce yourselves in the right order. This is a test. Do not fail. And go. All right, you failed.
Oh,
So that's
Brian.
Akhtar, it's Mo, that's our guest Mike, who's been on the podcast, what, 3 times now? 4 times?
This is
Wait, it was me?
No, it was me, I think. No. Well, no, because I go
it's
after
definitely
Brian.
you.
How do you fuck this up so easily?
It's definitely you, Oxar.
No, because Brian not being here actually fucks
Brian
it all
not
up.
being. No, it's
Brian's
alright.
dead, we need to move on. Ark Voidwalker in chat says, I'm not dead. Good for you, Ark. Our friend Brian is, though, so don't rub it in.
Yeah.
It's your boy Mo. I'm here. Yo.
My name's Akhtar, and I miss Brian not really.
God, that is so cold.
Mo, that's your cue. That's your cue. Go. Go. Say something. Say anything. Oh, you're freezing. Freezing up.
Introduce yourself, bro.
No, Akhtar did. It's you.
I'm just
Last.
saying,
I'm the
it's
guest.
your
I'm
boy
always
Mo.
last. Jesus. I've been
I
on this in 6 weeks and I fucking remember. Christ.
Yo,
This
what
is what
happening?
happens when Brian dies.
Can we
All
make
right,
the whole
let's take it-
podcast
let's-
us? Can we? Let's take it from the top. Take it from the
Let's
top.
take
We're
it-
just-
yeah.
Hi,
Yeah,
welcome to Fyre Bar. I'm the bartender for the week, Mike, and I'm here with three very lovely boys who will introduce themselves in the right order now.
My name is Akhtar, and I'm happy.
That Brian's dead. Wonderful.
Yes.
What? My name is Mo, and I don't believe Brian is dead.
Holding on to hope.
Mm.
I respect
Facts.
it. And our special guest, who's gonna say his name?
Mike.
Yeah, it's Mike.
I wasn't sure if you were supposed to go first because I thought guests would go last.
Yeah, I
Does that
guess.
make sense?
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, guys go last.
Yeah. So, all right, let's take from the top.
Dave, no, we nailed it. We nailed
already
it
did
that
from
time.
the top. We got it.
Yeah, no, we're
Oh,
done
got it.
here. Let's
Yeah,
just
we
move
got
on.
it.
on.
That's.
Yeah.
I mean, we can run it
How-
again if you didn't like that take.
No,
We can-
no. So,
Just the
so
whole
how's
podcast.
the gas prices out there, y'all? How's gas?
Bro,
Shut-
it's like
what?
It's like fucking cum laude gas prices right now. Like they need to bring that GPA down a bit.
Come loud.
Oh,
Cum laude.
Come loud.
Cum laude.
I-
Summa
didn't know.
cum loudly. Which is to say,
didn't know,
it's almost at like 4.0.
Oh, really? That's bad.
Jesus!
Yeah,
I didn't know
they're
gas
pretty-
could be loud.
I think it's only 320, 325 here. I think something like that.
Wow.
I'm also in town. You guys are also in town, so.
I remember the days when gas used to be $1 a gallon, and I was able to pay for my entire house by just being a fucking plumber.
Plumber.
I worked 3 hours a week for a nickel an hour, and I bought a 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom house with 5 acres of land.
I just don't
Jeez.
understand this generation. They just don't. They just can't seem to buy things. I
They're
don't
just
get it.
lazy with their avocado toast and their Mario Karts.
And
Those-
they're
Getting all hopped up off of Diet Coke and Jolly Ranchers.
Hoodlums.
What?
it's sad. It's sad what these people have become.
Oh man. It's my grandpa.
That's my grandpa.
Wherever he is.
Bro, I did the math the other day, and I'm pretty sure now all my grandparents on both sides of my family have passed away. But my grandpa on my dad's side, both him, my dad, and me all have the same birthday, November 23rd. And I did the math. My grandpa, I think, was born in 1907, which
What the
would
fuck?
put him
Damn, yeah.
exactly 85 years older than me.
Dang,
And
bro.
that's wild. Yeah, if he was still alive today, he'd be well into his hundreds.
Where'd he go?
To the under the
Where
ground.
Brian is. Well, come on. Where
do we have
Brian
to-
is, dude.
Yeah, he's where Brian. Well, no, my grandpa was a pretty okay dude,
Oh,
so he's probably
he's
not
a
where
good
Brian
guy.
is. But
Oh, yeah. You're right. I'm
Where's
bad.
Brian?
Oh, he's hitting hell, hopefully.
No,
What
Brian's
you
in
mean?
Tallahassee.
Hopefully.
Brian's the next best thing to hell. Tallahassee, Florida.
that well, yeah.
No.
I should have said Jacksonville. That would have been more sense.
Oh, he's
Well, there's
he's
a Hell, Michigan. Like there's a place in Michigan literally called Hell.
What?
Yeah, there's a Paris, Iowa. Like where they come up.
There's apparently a China, Illinois.
Really, bro? It's
There's
going
a
to China,
pair.
Illinois.
And they only have, best part is they only have Mexican restaurants there.
Wow.
There's apparently a New
Oh, yeah.
Jersey and Philadelphia. Where
Uh,
my fucking. Don't ever listen to Akhtar again when he tells you to buy shoes online, bro. They won't
Dude,
come
it's
to
your
you.
fault for putting in the wrong address.
I put in my address like I
Then
do
how
for
did it
every
end up in
package that
Philadelphia?
gets to my house.
What are the original 13 continents? How?
I don't know.
Original
bro.
13 continents. It's a shame there's only like
Well-
7 now.
that's gonna be horrible when you guys are uploading this.
Oh.
The mic and all you're gonna hear is colors. Weird.
It's
But
okay.
yeah, man. Yeah, you should have put in the right address, Mo. That's
I
your
put
fault.
in the. I literally
Literally,
get everything else to my house.
What are we
ever.
talking about here? I've lost track. What are you guys fucking?
Shoes.
What
Bought shoes
inane bullshit
I was
are
talking.
you guys talking about?
Talking to my boy Akhtar here. You know, my boy, my guy, my brother. Never let me down. Never has.
I never will.
Until this day that I'm about to bring up.
It wasn't my fault. It's your fault.
I'm like, Akhtar, I need some shoes. I need to look fresh. And he's like, don't worry, bro. I got you. So he finds me some shoes off of, what was it called? StockX? Yeah. There's an app where you can order shoes and various other
that's
swagger.
Akhtar's side hustle, selling shoes.
Yeah. I forgot you couldn't just sell me some shoes. Anyway,
Tell me tell me. Okay, so he gets it wrong. Sorry.
No, Can I tell the story? Thank you.
Go ahead.
So I put in my information, of my address where I've been my entire life. Supposedly. Where everything else that I put my address in on any other site in order comes here all the time. Except for that one time. And this time. So 2 times.
You did it wrong.
2 times for the 2 times.
I didn't. But anyways, so I ordered these shoes. They're like $124. I should have got something cheaper first. But anyways. I'm waiting and waiting and waiting. It's getting delivered through, DHL? What is that? That sounds like slow internet providers.
A delivery company of some sort.
They're trash. They're trash.
Why'd you order it through DHL?
I didn't have a choice. That's the provider that they gave me. Don't tell. We'll talk later. Bro, my shoes ended up in Philadelphia, Willingboro. I live in Willingboro, New Jersey, and I put New Jersey in. And I'm like, and to make it worse, it said package was signed for. I'm like, by who? They had my name too.
Yeah, what if there is like a Mo Jenkins that lives in
Philadelphia, Willingboro? Like,
well, you're not. I mean, you're in New Jersey. You can go to Philly. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
Those shoes are in probably the hood.
Well, whatever. Listen. You know the address. You know where to find this man. Go get your shoes.
I know. No, bro. He's more likely to take the shoes that I bring to go get my shoes.
Well, you don't know until you try.
Tell me how I was able to get over
Whatever,
like 25 different packages from them, and they all showed up at my house correctly. And then through that same service, I was able to deliver those same products to different addresses, and they all showed up properly. Tell me, Mo, you put in the wrong address.
I did not put in the. Can I please?
Mo,
you put in PA
Mo, listen.
instead of NJ.
Addresses are hard. You probably put in the wrong address. I mean, Mike, when I first visited you, I put in the right address, but it wasn't the right zip code, which still makes me mad.
Mikey?
By the way, what?
Remember Mikey with the Popeyes? I thought I put in my address, but then it came to you guys.
Oh yeah.
So
weird.
it happens, Mo. It was your fault.
It doesn't, bro. Not on no $124 J's. I'm vigilant
Stop
like
buying
that.
such expensive shoes. I just bought a pair of shoes for like $35, and they're fine. They're great. In fact, they're better than great because they've got like memory foam, like inliners and stuff. Like it's really nice. $35. Now, granted, they were on sale, but still.
Timo. It went to the right address. It went to Mikey's. It came to Mikey's house.
Y'all just go on down to the DSW like the rest of us peons, like the rest of us disgusting.
He didn't order shoes. He went and bought them.
And they still showed up to the right address.
Because he took them there.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
With that, see, you just got to eliminate the middleman. If you want a job right, you got to do it yourself, Mo.
I'm going the Ross.
You're dressed for less, baby.
Going the Ross. Yo, Ross has some pretty good shirts.
They got some cool knicknacks over there too, actually.
They're pretty.
The only thing I ever bought at a Ross is like a season of Batman the Animated Series. It wasn't even close. They just had a rack of like, look at all these clothes and also Batman. And I'm like, great. I know what I want.
Awesome, that's the one I want.
And they rung it up.
Yeah, it's not even part of the store inventory, but they're like, fuck
They're
it.
whatever.
This passes.
Yeah,
$12.99.
they're like, I didn't even know we had this shit. Fuck, I don't know. Give me $10. I don't give a shit. They don't pay me enough to give a shit.
Here, you take this and get out.
Oh,
You ever been to a Ross, Mike?
No.
A Ross dress for less? Or is that an Illinois thing?
That's an Illinois thing.
But I have one here too.
Yeah, it's an
We have
Illinois thing.
Burlington.
Sorry, Mo.
We
You
have
missed out.
Burlington and Baumgars or whatever it is.
Yeah.
you know you've made it when you're shopping in a Burlington coat factory. You know you've made it.
It's still some cheap shit. But they had one, like, I don't know, like 4 miles away. Been open for decades, and they closed it. And now it's a Halloween store, because that makes sense.
How?
I don't. Can someone explain to me how Halloween stores work? Because they
Well,
only
they
like
close the month
Spirit
of October.
Halloween. I mean, I know they like still sell costumes like year round and stuff like that, but you know they get most of their business in the month of October. And it's like, what do they do for the other 11 months?
I thought like Halloween stores like during off seasons just become like party stores. That's what I thought, honestly.
Yeah, it's well, to be fair, they're probably owned by the same parent company, so it's
Yeah.
You know. But still, it's one of those things that always like blew my mind because like besides like Spirit Halloween, Octo, you might remember, but they're close to where we live. There's a like actual costume store.
I know what you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah, and they've got like a lot of really like high quality stuff there. In fact, I have a Batman cowl somewhere in this house that I bought from there. That's like really decent quality. But yeah, I like every time I've gone in there, again, it was for like Halloween. And usually not a lot of people are there, and I just gotta stop and wonder, like, how is this place still fucking open? I don't get it.
It's a front, bro. It's a
It's
front
gotta
for
be.
something.
It's gotta be.
It's
Just like
Gus's
Vern's
front.
taxidermy. That down the hill, Vern's taxidermy. Like, I wish I took a picture
Since
of
we've
this
been
building.
alive.
Dude, that building's older than time itself. I swear to God, like, I wish I took a picture of it, because you go down, like, the town that we live in, they've done a lot of, like, renovations there. Like, you go downtown, it looks really nice. But there's this shabby-ass, broken-down wooden building with a sign on it that says Vern's Taxidermy that's been there God knows how long. And I'm sitting there like, who the fuck in this goddamn town goes to Vern's for taxidermy? Like, who's even getting stuff taxidermized anyway?
Bro. You gotta go inside one day.
I'm scared. That building looks so... I swear, it looks like you'll open the door and the thing will just fall down. It is in such terrible disrepair.
You just see the guy come, he's like,
welcome to
and you're like,
Vern's Taxidermy.
You know what? I think I'm gonna go home.
I taxidermize all sorts of things. It can even be human.
I should go.
It's got like some dude's like grandma in the display window, but like posed like a bear.
Friend. You walk in there and he's like, did you have a friend that recently died with a dildo in his ass? I can taxidermy that for you.
How did you know?
I've seen it many times before. Many
you look
times,
like a man
you say.
who knows a man who died with a dildo in his ass.
Now, to be clear, I'm not going to be able to get the dildo out. But trust me, it's part of the aesthetic.
I can give you some of his teeth, though. It's like
What if we went to get Brian like taxidermied, but it ended up like that lion that they tried to like taxidermize or whatever, and it just looked like the doofiest fucking shit. Do you guys remember what I'm talking about?
No.
Yeah.
There's a famous picture online. You can look it up after the podcast, but like it's like type in like bad taxidermized lion, and you'll see it's the goofiest fucking. It looks like the dumbest cartoon lion. It's hilarious. And I would love to see. Yeah, there you go. You found it. Like it's just so goofy. It's like, could you imagine the human version of that?
Oh,
Like, you go to take a loved one, get taxidermied. Like,
no, you bury them. No,
I love you, Mom. I love you. I want you to be here forever. I'm gonna have you stuffed.
Poster up, taxidermized in like the corner of the house, just always staring. When the lights turn off, it just looks like she's like standing there, just staring.
Well, she's just there with like a pot and a soup ladle, like just how you remember. It's like, soup's on, Mom.
moves on. And when you turn off the light, she has to have like glow in the dark eyes, like a nightlight.
God.
Like her eyes just have like.
Oh yeah.
She's got like a pull string. She's like an actual lamp. There's a light bulb in her head.
What?
Have you guys ever seen the movie The Great Outdoors?
No,
I've never heard of it.
No.
Nope.
You should. It's pretty funny. There's a scene where, like at the beginning of the movie, the guy was just like, yeah, we saw all sorts of shit here. We got taxidermy. We got this. And he's the guy John Candy is like, oh, what's that? And he's like, that's a shotgun lamp, double barrel. Yeah, works like a champ. And then later in the movie, like there's a bear that attacks this house, and the fucking guy comes in and he literally has the lamp double barrel shotgun, plugs the fucking lamp in and aims it, and they're like, it's a fucking lamp. He's like, it's loaded. just blows everything up. Just like it shoots the bear in the ass, and it just makes this bear spot on the fucking bear.
Yo,
Oh, that's great.
that's a
watch
smart
it.
idea.
Well, dude,
It's just
dude,
hilarious because he's like, it's loaded.
it's loud. I mean, hey, you said John Candy, and that won me over. So I'll have to check it
yeah.
out.
John Candy, Dan Aykroyd.
Nice.
And you'll know the old guy who I'm talking about. He's the guy that runs the resort. Like he's the one that's just like, they're like, yeah, is there anything else we need to know about the cabins? He's like, well, why don't I give you the shits? Well, I'm sorry, what was that? No, then you guys have a nice day.
Have a nice day.
Yeah, guys, have a nice day. Oh yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, it's a good movie. I have to pee.
Already, Michael. We are 20
Mike,
minutes
you know
in,
I have
and you
to
already have to pee.
21
I almost
minutes.
peed my pants right there because I laughed. It's
All
not.
right. All right, go pee.
I'll be right back. I'm gonna
Okay.
turn off my camera so you don't see.
I wanted to see.
You just
Damn
hear
shame.
the stream.
What?
Hey, I've pooped on stream before. Don't tell me.
Many times. I wanted a compilation of that. It was during our like Dark Souls 2 and 3 days. But by the way, there's something I wanted to talk about with you guys because I was discussing this with a coworker, and I'm curious what you guys think. But we got into this conversation about whether or not the internet has made like video games and video gaming in general like better or worse. Because of course we were like reminiscing about old video games and like the old days of playing video games, like before the internet had all these like resources available, had, you know, chat rooms, let's plays, all this stuff. And the reason I bring it up is because like obviously the internet has been a really big positive for a lot of different games, but it also has taken away a lot of the magic. Because I remember, you know, back when I was young, you would play the hell out of a game and you would not know like what to expect at all, right? Because you didn't even really have a reliable way to look it up. So you would just kind of be like, you would get a game, you'd go into it, and you'd be like, I have no idea what to expect, but it's super exciting. And the sense of like exploration and discovery was unlike anything that like I feel like I get out of most days. Now the closest thing I got into that was Breath of the Wild, but again, I played Breath of the Wild day one and didn't look anything up. So like I don't know. There's a part of me that thinks that, you know, the internet has been a wonderful thing for games, but even talking about like competitive stuff, like fighting games, right? If there's a meta for a game, like people tend to stick to that. So you go to play like a fighting game online, like Dragon Ball Fighters, and you fight like all the same teams because even though that's a pretty well balanced game, there are characters who are better than others. So you're playing the same fucking teams. You're probably playing as the same team, and there's just bizarre homogenization across the entire like video game landscape, which is kind of a bummer.
If you were to ask me this question, I would say maybe 2 months ago, I would say that overall the internet did make video games better. Today, I'm like, actually no, because I haven't actually, besides for streaming, I haven't actually played a video game in like freaking, but yeah, since like 3 months ago, I just stopped playing unless it was for like streams and stuff. It's gotten so bad for me to the point where I've resorted back to playing actual physical card games. You guys know, like, like I don't like I've not video gamed in a while. I think like even for like the PlayStation, like I've stopped playing Monster Hunter for I don't know how long or like anything. I'm just like,
Yeah, bro. We don't Star Wars no more.
We don't Star Wars either. Yeah, it's just like, like Yeah, yeah,
Well, yeah,
you know.
I mean, no, I feel you there. I feel like a lot of the reason I fall off of games is just because I'm busy with other shit. But, um, yeah, I don't know. Because like I was so I keep going back to this, Octa. I know you know, but I've been playing Resident Evil 4 for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And that game's such a weird, crazy, fun experience. I really do love it, despite the fact that I think that game has so many problems. But something that like I've noticed has been like a weird hindrance for me is like if you haven't played, I guess, well, probably almost any Resident Evil game. The way it kind of works is there's this like loop of like you go in an area of this like you explore, Resident Evil 4 is like a village, and then now I'm in a castle and stuff like that, and your saves are the little typewriters, which are kind of like checkpoints, right? So you get to a typewriter, you save, and then you progress more until you get to a new typewriter, or perhaps that loops back around to an old one, whatever the case is. But number one, my issue, and I get why that's the case, and it totally makes sense for a horror game, but a big reason that design bothers me is because it is so easy for me to play like 15 minutes of that game, get to a new typewriter, and be like, all right, I'm done, and turn it off. Because it's such like such a hard, like, oh, okay, I did the progress, I made it, oh, and then knowing that like something else is going to come ahead that I'm not prepared for or whatever. So there's this itch in the back of my mind that's like, maybe I should just look ahead and see what's the next room's going to be like so I can prepare better for it, which I know isn't a good thing, and that's not the best way to play that game. It shouldn't be the way anyone plays any game for the first time, at least. But, like, it's always this nagging thing. It's like my anxiety of, like, oh, I don't know what to expect. I don't know if I have enough ammo. I don't know what gun I should use or shouldn't use or whatever. Fuck, maybe I should just look ahead and see what's coming up. And again, it's, I guess, cool that I can do that, but back in the day, that wasn't an option. I just kind of had to fucking go for it,
Oh, I thought you meant like actually like when. Oh, so you like look it up in the internet, see what you want to do at that point.
I mean,
you know
I've been trying not to, and in fact, like
Yeah.
that's why usually when I get to a new typewriter, I just stop because it's such a good stopping point, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. The next area could be just a clusterfuck, and I don't know if I want to get into that right now. But again, it's just that itch of wanting to look ahead to know.
And honestly, like here's the thing. It's so funny how you mentioned Resident Evil 4 because even if you did do that, it's fine because like you have done that before, right? With this specific game, have you or have you not? I'm just asking.
Yeah, I have once or twice.
Okay. So it says something though, even after looking it up and then playing through that part, how amazingly paced that game still is then. You know what I mean? Like you still had a good time even when you did look ahead, right? Like you still liked what you played.
Yeah, for sure. It's just that I don't know. I'm trying to think of a better way to word it. It's still fun. It's just not as exciting. I don't know, because like what's coming, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it also like all changes to like how you handle this. Like, how far are you in the game right now? 'Cause I don't wanna say anything about any of your encounters.
Yeah, the last thing I did was I went through like the maze with the dogs.
Okay, so like something like that, right? Like things can still change up on you even then, because like even if you saw the maze, and the maze is actually very freaking straightforward.
Yeah,
actually, but like even if you saw that, like sometimes like a freaking dog will like jump out of the bush that you didn't expect that would jump out of the bush if you turned a different direction or something. Like it always has like these little things to still spice it up. At least from what I remembered, like. It just depends on what turn you take first.
For sure. And to be clear, this what I'm talking about here is no statement on the game. It's a statement on like the internet and its impact on the game. So like, because you're right. I think the game is paced well enough and it's fun enough that again, like no matter what, whether I look ahead or don't or whatever, I'm gonna keep playing because I just genuinely enjoy it. But I just can't help but wonder, like, man, would I not have this nagging anxiety if I just knew I didn't have the option to look stuff up, Or even the fact that, like, I think about back in the day when you would get, a game, or a bunch of your friends would be playing a game, and then you would just like be able to like discuss about it. Like you play a game and then you go to school and you talk about that shit, and it'd be that like sense of discovery, like, oh fuck, you can do that in the game. That's crazy. Because again, you weren't looking at stuff online. You just kind of had that word of mouth with people to discover what was going to be in a game. And there's something about that was like oddly communal that I really miss. Not that, I mean, obviously we still talk about games, but you don't necessarily go to a friend to find out something about a game when you can just Google it and figure out.
You go to a
get a definitive
like a
answer.
thread.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I have one thing to say, and that's game guides. The game guides have been around for years. I remember when I'm the oldest, and I'm 30 years old. And I remember playing Final Fantasy VII when I was 8 or 9 years old, and there was a game guide for it. There was a walkthrough for it. So it told you everything. So I do agree that the internet, to an extent, I think it's made it more accessible because it's free. It's free information 99% of the time. So you had to buy a game guide, so that was extra money that your parents, if you weren't, an adult at the time, would have to shell out in order for you to have that piece of information. But at the same time, it's not so necessary. Like, I mean, I don't know if my brother had a job or something like that, but he had it. And when I was playing through the game, there's a part in Final Fantasy VII. I think all of you have played it. I don't know if anybody. I don't know, Mo. Have you played the original, Mo?
He hasn't played any of the good ones.
Okay, so yeah, he's played 15. And then Oktar
13.
and Mike, you got 13. Sorry. So Mike and Oktar, you guys played the original FF7, right?
I've never beaten it, but I played a good amount of it.
Okay, so I don't know if you remember, there was a part in the game where you get to like this mansion, and you have to. If I remember correctly, this is where Vincent Valentine is actually in a basement.
Yep, he's introduced.
Yep, but there is a safe. You have to find the code, the safe code. You open that up, and there's a massive monster in there. For whatever reason, you have to have a battle, and that's like a very difficult, very, very difficult battle.
Yep.
If you don't know where to look, or if you're not doing all of the exploration on your own, I had the game guide right there, and it told me it's 54, 72, 63, and I was like, oh, okay. So I just punched that in and got into a battle. So it's not like the internet. I think the internet has only made that an easier access of information. I don't know if it's as much as a detriment. I think also it also very much depends upon the player, because most players like you, Mike, are like you, Mike, where they're gonna see a game that they really want to play, they're gonna go out of their way to look it up and research it and watch trailers and gameplay and see if it's something they're into. And that's a great thing. That's a great thing because you're actually being smart, because you're not just buying it when it's a pre-order, Mo. And but I'm just joking. But no, there's so many people that pre-order games without even actually watching what the game is like.
Yeah.
I stopped pre-ordering. I stopped buying games when they were new. Like I just don't do it anymore because it's a waste of money. Because that game could come from the same exact company, the same exact producers, the same exact engine created it. The entire original team could be there, and it could be a completely shitty game. You don't know. That's why I don't buy games new. I wait until I see the game. I see gameplay. I wait a few months, even a year or two. And I didn't play Doom 2016 until late 2018, early 2019.
Yeah.
So I waited because I knew that A, it was going to be on sale. B, if it's going to be a good game, it's going to be talked about, and you can find that research and stuff like that. So I think it has, more than anything, I think it's been a plethora of information, and it has made people more informed consumers. But I do agree, there is a big part of it where people do create unnecessary hype behind games, and they do look things up. And I mean, the thing is, it's one of those things where it depends upon the individual. But I think another thing to think about is, have you ever played this game before? If you've played a game if you're playing a game for the first time, personally speaking, I do what you do, Mike, which is just that I just play through it blind, and I do as much as I can and try and figure stuff out. Chances are I'm going to miss a lot of stuff, but that's fine. I can always look that up if I'm 3 levels down the road and I can go back to a level. I'm just going to go and find this thing. Like, oh wow, I didn't know that was there. Cool. You can do that. But the thing is that if you're doing that when it's a brand new game and you're looking stuff up, that does take away from the immersion, which is the whole point of game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there is meta. There's meta with every single multiplayer game imaginable. There's meta with, certain plays that you run in football games, or certain builds that you have when you're playing Call of Duty, or certain things that you're doing when you're playing a fighting game like
Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, I mean Yu-Gi-Oh. I mean,
A fighting
if you're-
game like
If you're someone
Yu-Gi-Oh.
like Mo, if you're someone like Mo who doesn't know how to play Yu-Gi-Oh and challenges a grandmaster such as Oktar, I mean those are problems. But
I won one time.
oh wow, I did not know that.
Once. Out of like
Proud of you, bud.
30.
Proud of you.
Hey,
That's
that was a
impressive, man.
good win.
And then he let me win twice.
I did not let.
Yeah, pussy, shut up.
Okay. Well, anyway, so I think it's a very difficult thing to have a strong opinion on either one or the other because
Well, I
it does come
don't
down
think
to-
I don't think there's a definitive answer. I think the internet has done a lot of great
I know you're
things.
not saying that.
But that's the internet in general, right? It's been a lot of great and a lot of horrible. And I think that's just what happens when you have wide access of information to everybody and when everybody has a voice and stuff like that. But I just thought it was interesting to. What were you gonna say?
Nothing. I was laughing.
Why would you ask us something so controversial, bro? I wasn't ready for this.
Mo,
It's like the least controversial
your-
thing in the world.
It's just
All
a
right,
discussion.
yeah.
It's just a.
We're talking about
he didn't
the
ask you if you think that video games cause violence.
we're talking about the
people.
internet, though.
Mo, what's
No,
your
the
opinion?
internet's been controversial in the internet since the internet started. We were just talking about it pre-stream about how we don't like the fact that people on Twitch, like Amaranth, are able to do certain things such as show off their body. If you have a great body, whatever, you pay for your stuff, that's fine. I don't care. But it doesn't mean that shouldn't mean that your content is therefore better than mine by default, just because you're more attractive. I think it comes down to I think that's what it comes down to is that the internet has always been controversial. There's always going to be controversy. There's always going to be things because it doesn't matter if you've done something 5 years ago or 15 years ago. The internet will find out what you did and it's going to be there forever. So that's always going to be a black mark.
Yeah.
That's
Where-
always going to be a black mark.
What's your
Where-
opinion, though, Mo, about
where are
video
we
games and the
going?
internet?
Like, I mean, multiplayer, bro. I like playing with the homies.
Uh-huh.
I like shitting on other people. I don't like getting shit on by other people, but comes with the territory.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I mean, Well, do you guys ever find it's the weirdest thing? And again, this is gonna be so subjective because I'm fucking neurotic, but I find that despite the fact that I think it's always about the journey as opposed to the destination, if I have the ability to look up something about a game and be like, oh, what happens if I grind this out, or what happens if I do this on the most difficult difficulty setting, is it worth it? And if I'm not satisfied with whatever the prize is, and I'm like, it's not worth it, and move on. Even though I realize that just the act of doing it could be really fun. So I feel like there are situations in which nowadays I'm potentially robbing myself of a good time, or at the very least an interesting time, just because I can now look ahead and be like, I don't think that's worth it.
I don't know. I feel different about that because if something is super difficult, like, yeah, of course, you have a point. The act of doing it, could be in of itself the fun. But dude, if I'm not properly rewarded for the effort that I put in, my reaction will 100% of the time be like, well, that's fucking bullshit. That's fucking sucks.
No,
this is stupid.
And I agree 100%, which is why I usually opt out of
Same.
doing that stuff if I find out.
Same.
But like, again, I'll go to an example like Dark Souls where, you beat a difficult boss and your reward is a bunch of souls, which is great. A boss soul, which you can turn into a weapon, and all that stuff is great. But like at the end of the day, and be honest, because maybe it's just me, but when I kill a boss, I don't really give a shit about the souls I get. I can get souls elsewhere. What I care about is that I fucking beat that boss, and that felt good, no matter how hard it was or how many times it took. It's the satisfaction of like, shit, I did it. Like that is the true reward. And I know that that's going to be a difference between different games and their design and how good it is.
Yeah,
whatever.
Yep.
Again,
because I feel the same way with Dark Souls as well. Exactly that way.
And it's a thing with a ton of variables, but I guess that's ultimately my point. Is like, is it possible? And I think the answer is yes. That someone like me would be passing up something that could be really rewarding just because I don't get the in-game thing. Or I can look ahead and be like, I don't think that's worth it, but
you know me, Mike. I've played all the Soulsborne games. I've beaten them all. I enjoy it thoroughly. I think that the reward of beating someone is absolutely, at least for those games, and I agree. I think that it is the exact same thing with another game that I tend to play on the hardest difficulty, which is the Batman game.
Mhm.
Not the Telltale ones, the
Arkham games.
Oh
City,
yeah,
Yeah.
Arkham games. Yeah.
Asylum ones. Those are phenomenal games, but I tend to play those on the hardest difficulty because I want to feel like when Bane hits me, it actually feels like Bane's hitting me. I want it to
Yeah.
feel good, and I want it to take 2 minutes to take.
Hit me, Bane Daddy, hit me. I want to feel
Hit me,
it.
Daddy. Oh, make me.
Well,
make me
what I also like about the hardest difficulty of that game too is that it changes up it just changes it up too. Like you don't get your counter flashes anymore. You got to like see like okay, like if someone's attacking me,
that
I need
dude's
to
winding
know
up
if
for a
someone's attacking.
punch.
Yeah, exactly.
That
Which is
just adds
actually
to
fantastic.
immersiveness.
Exactly. That
Mhm.
exactly. And it's just like it adds to, like you were saying, the immersiveness to it, but it also adds the fact that you actually have to, pay attention now. Yeah, because it's a beautifully designed game in the fact that like you don't actually need those counters because they really do, like you were saying, Mikey, they wind up, they telegraph their attacks every time. It's so when you do get hit, it's a fair hit.
Yeah.
It's a fair hit. It feels like it's your fault.
I think with those games specifically, what I enjoyed the most was because I played the first terrible. I think was it called Batman Arkham Asylum or was it? Yeah, it was Batman Arkham Asylum. Sorry,
Yeah.
it's been probably like 10 years. So when I first played that game, I played on the absolute hardest difficulty I could when I first got the game. I got it from our friend in college, Brandon Maitland. Shouldn't have said his last name. My bad.
Go find him. Dox him.
Yeah, no. Like Brandon had that game. You and Brandon had beaten it, and you said it was a phenomenal game. You should play it. So I think it was over the summer between my junior and senior year. I went ahead and I borrowed it from Brandon. I said, "Is it okay?" I beat it in like a week.
Mhm.
I absolutely loved it. And you find certain tactics. The cape stun. You can just throw the cape stun, and then people are just whoa, whoa, whoa. So then you can just bop, 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 and then you can just jump over them, and then bop, 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 the next guy. You can just keep doing that kind of stuff. Is it button mashing? Yes, but at the same time, it's very, very, very fun because I don't know if you've played it, Mo, but if you two guys have, one of my the worst fight in that game, hands down for me, was the one where I think you're in like a sub basement, like 3 elevators open, and there's just like 20 guys that come out, and you have to fight like 20 guys as fucking Batman. And of course, at that point, it's later game, so it's not like it's early game, but it's a very, very, very difficult fight just due to the number of things you have to be paying attention to.
Mhm.
So you still, you do see somebody winding up, so you have to jump over somebody to avoid that attack, and then you have to make sure that there's nobody behind it doing that. That to me always adds to immersiveness, and that's the things that I miss so much from adventure game. That's what pisses me off a lot about like Bethesda and what they've done with the Elder Scrolls and the Fallouts, and why I personally don't think that I'll really ever play like any of the new Zelda games, because to me it's simple enough that it's not as much of a challenge. Of course, there are challenges and things like that that you can put on yourself, or things that make it more difficult just innately. But at the same time, to me, I would rather have a game that is already just a higher difficulty just by itself, rather than have to go and search and find a way to make it more difficult.
I'd have to disagree with the new Zelda part at least, because they really did
Never
change
played
up the jig.
I think Breath of the Wild is a masterpiece, and it
Yeah.
definitely has
Oh, I'm not saying it's good, obviously.
difficulty to it.
Yeah.
And
like
to
I said,
it has
there's
like
still-
a master mode difficulty that they added into. Well, you know what I will say though, that I kind of agree with, and I don't think every game needs to be like super hard.
No.
Again, I love the From Software games. I really love difficult games, but like I don't think every game needs to be super challenging. It's fine if you want to make a game where it's just a fucking power trip. That can be a good time too. But that being said, I think it is time that we do away with difficulty settings. I want to play the game the way the developer intended. Whether
Yeah.
that's hard, easy, in between, I don't fucking know. But I never like it anymore when it's just like on me now. Like, what do you want to play? You want to play the easy mode, the normal mode, the hard mode? Do you want to unlock the super hard mode? It's like, what is the way I'm supposed to play it? Because I'll usually always pick normal, and then you'll always hear people online like, no, actually hard's the way you're really supposed to play. It's like, well, the fuck, then
Yeah.
why do they call normal if hard is normal? Like, just make the game. Who needs difficulty settings? Fuck them. Just make the game the
and
way
a
you
lot of
want it,
times-
and I'll play it.
And a lot of times too, when you even go to like the extreme hard difficulties or whatever, it's just like the damage that you take and all of that stuff is so overinflated to the point where you're like, well,
Yeah.
gee, like how? Of course, this is very hard. You've made it actually impossible.
Or you could commit the sin and trust me, and I actually genuinely like this game, but what a fucking atrocity this is. So that Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order game, the difficulty settings actually like affect like the reaction time you need in order to like deflect something or whatever.
What?
So it literally changes the game for like your window of opportunity. It'd be like if Dark Souls had difficulty settings and like on the highest difficulty your roll had less iframes or something. Like it just like alters the game, and it's just like I don't fucking like that. Just design the game the way you think it should be, and that's the game. I don't need an easy, normal, hard, very hard, ultra critical. Fuck all that shit. Just make the game.
Yeah.
No, I think a good way to look at it is, and this is just me because I know I'm the only one here that's played through all of them, but all of the Borderland games had that pretty well done, in my opinion. They had it so that the difficulty was ramped up as you went further along. Could you sit there and could you just constantly save and quit and reload and then constantly fight the same enemies and gain, just farm experience? Of course you can. Or if you do all the side missions, maybe you'll be over leveled. But at least Borderlands 2 and Borderlands 1 for me was a good enough game where they made it so that when you beat it, they gave you the opportunity to replay the game at a higher difficulty. Meaning there were certain things like your weapons would do the same damage. You would take the same damage. Like that didn't change. All it did was made the enemies harder. They hit harder. They would, at a highest difficulty, they would actually recover health over time. Stuff like that. That actually works for me because it's like, hey, we let you beat the game on a setting where
Toby,
get down. You beat it on a certain difficulty, and you're satisfied with that because you've beaten the game. And they're like, hey, you want to replay it? We think we made a really good game. Let's make it a little more difficult for you. And they just keep doing that kind of stuff. Now, granted, Borderlands 3 is a complete shit show. Don't ever buy it. I think it's a piece of shit. If you buy it, you're probably wasting your money. But the thing is that, dude, it's Mo. You wasted your money. I wasted my money. Don't worry.
It's kind of the same stance that Dark Souls, like all the Soulsborne, take too as well, though. Like it's like, hey, we made a great game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what I mean. It's like they make things harder. They do give you additional rewards, additional, better weapons, obviously, and more experience from killing things. I think that's the way a game should be. You shouldn't have a difficulty setting. I agree, Mike. I think that kind of takes away from it because it really. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, imagine if Last of Us had an easy mode. How much fun would that be? It wouldn't be, because the difficulty of that game is to make it as story driven as possible, but also making any combat that you get into incredibly harrowing. And that's what a game should be. It should make you feel like you're a part of the world.
Wait,
that's what
it does have
grounded
an easy mode.
Grounded mode. Speaking of Last of Us, grounded mode made me hate my life. Like never play grounded.
That is
ever.
That just like uber difficulty or something?
Yeah, it's like the DLC release difficulty of the game, where it's like you should never actually play the game in that mode. Actually, ever like just go to normal mode.
You want to just get rid of all the fun of the game? Play this mode.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and I think that's the big thing. And Mike and I have had hours of conversations about it. But there are so many things that I dislike about AAA title games and AAA companies specifically, where they have a say in how games are made. Especially Bethesda. They are the nemesis for me in terms of the game world. They always them and EA, but EA is a whole other story. Bethesda specifically has a seeming monopoly on first-person adventure games. They do those all the time, and they do them. They try to tell a story, but it's stupid. It's poorly done. Everything's just broken. Everything's just massively underwhelming or overwhelming if you're on the wrong difficulty, things like that. But it's like there's certain things that games can add, I think, that really do allow you to enjoy the game to its fullest extent. My best
I feel
opinion
like
is,
also like when you do like difficulties, as you were saying, Mike, like with that in mind, it's just like a cheap way of increasing longevity of the game as well.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't like that. I think if you make a game and I'm paying $60 for it, it should be a game that I can play for 8 to 20 hours or 100 hours, however long the game is, but the difficulty should be innately there. It should be it should be drilled into the game already, so that way it doesn't make me feel terrible. Now, a game Mike and I have played, Divinity 2 Original Sin, gives you the option for different game modes, just like Fallout New Vegas did. Fallout New Vegas, I can't remember what that was, that hardcore mode, Mike, where it increases your thirst, your sleep, and your hunger. Those are things you have to take care of. That, to me, made it incredibly immersive, infinitely more immersive, because you have to think about, okay, these food items that I never had to care about before I could just sell for caps, now I have to have them in order to keep my hunger down. I need to be able to find a bed every once in a while, otherwise there are going to be detriments to my abilities. And it all made logical sense. And the same thing with, what was the other game we were just talking about? My brain just stopped.
Divinity?
Yes. They have a mode, I think it's also called hardcore mode, where if a character dies or if your party gets wiped, the game stops. Like, that file gets deleted.
Yeah.
That, to me, is a good thing. You're giving yourself a built-in kind of fail-safe for something. It's an option, though. I think their options are fantastic for games. But when it comes to a game difficulty, yes, they shouldn't allow you to have such a wide variety of what a difficulty is.
100%. And like, to that point, hey, it's been I don't know, a day or two since I've sucked Dragon Quest XI's dick. So let me go ahead real quick. That game doesn't have difficulty settings, but what it does have is I can't remember the term it uses for them, but they're little like challenges you can apply to your run if you want to, and some of it's just like, harder monsters or whatever, like basic stuff, but there's some like weird stuff, like one's called like Shy Pox, where there's a chance your character will be too shy to do anything. So like on a turn where they should attack, they're just like, oh no, like real bashful or whatever. You can turn on a mode where you just can't buy anything from shops, and you got to go through the run using items that you find or whatever, which the best items are the ones you find anyway, so it's not that much of a hindrance. But the point is a lot of like really interesting things, and you can toggle all of them, you can toggle some of them, you can toggle none of them. It doesn't really matter, but you can kind of add on the difficulty you want if you feel that's necessary. And even if it's not even the difficulty you're interested in, if you want to do another run of the game but just switch things up, it gives you options to do that. I think that's really cool. I like the idea of being able to customize, a run of a game before you go into it. But yeah, I'm just so sick of the easy, normal, hard shit. Like, what does that even mean? More often than not, it means fucking spongy enemies and
less health. You take more damage.
Take more damage. Like, it's just not as interesting.
I think another game that goes in the same vein as Dragon Quest XI is Bastion. Mike and you.
Oh, Bastion. Yeah.
That has the exact same kind of concept, where as you get through a level, you basically get like this option to, as you completed that level, to make the game harder. And you can go in and you can choose which ones. Like, enemies hit harder, you have less health, your weapons do less damage, or they break, or ammunition is uncommon, stuff like that. You can make those options and make the difficulty increased as you play the game, but they're not taking away from what the game is, because they have a general concept that they want for the game. But hey, if you want a challenge, you can turn these things on, and they're toggles. You can just turn them on and off. You can just literally go back to the hub, turn them on, turn them off, do whatever you want. And that to me is exactly what games should potentially provide, is something where you are allowed to make the difficulty harder, but their base game is just their base game. If you don't want to change any of that, that's fine. Because
XCOM actually does that in like the same vein like you two are talking about right now. XCOM actually nailed that part where you have all these different options, and then they have like Iron Man mode, where basically like the game saves after every turn. So every time you make a decision, if someone dies, fuck you, you stick with that, you made the mistake type of deal. Now here's the downside of that. Sometimes there are creatures that will just run at you from like 20 spaces away, then cut you down. And so, it kind of, it's like, what the fuck, right?
It's a fucking bullshit.
Because that's happened to me before. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like playing the hardest difficulty with all these, other things tapped on it. I'm playing Iron Man mode. I'm doing pretty well, and then just out of nowhere, this big berserker alien breaks out of the wall, and I'm like, dude, it's day 7.
It's 7 in the morning.
I think that it's funny you say that. Why does my brain do this?
It's the Alzheimer's, Mike. It's the Alzheimer's.
It is.
You're an old man.
I-
You're in your 30s.
I know Alzheimer's and dementia. Well, I think no, dementia doesn't run in my family. But there's a game. That's what it was. There's a saying that goes around the internet, and it came, I believe, from XCOM. I believe it originated from XCOM, which is if it's not 100% accurate, it's 50% accurate.
yeah.
If you don't have 100% accuracy on something,
Yeah.
you're gonna fucking miss.
You're gonna
half
miss.
the time.
Yeah,
That's just
every
the way it
time.
is.
Meanwhile, an
that's
enemy could
me.
have 50% chance to hit, and they'll hit almost every time.
Every time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the kind of
Oh.
stuff that I think games just a lot of game companies don't understand is that I can respect the concept of trying to make a game more difficult. That does allow players, that does increase longevity of a game, or if you're adding DLCs, blah blah blah, all that kind of crap. But the problem that I have with all that kind of stuff is that when you have a difficulty that doesn't actually make the game more difficult, well, I mean it does, but it just makes it unfair. There's a difference between making a game more difficult and making it unfair. And a lot of games have that problem. They don't understand what balance is, even though they're trying to do balance by, I don't know, creating a game, between storytelling and combat, or just, choices and ramifications and whatever it may be. They don't understand that there should be a balance between what you're able to do and what the enemy's able to do. Like you said, Oktar, with Iron Man mode, that is something that sounds harrowing. Like it sounds like it could be very, very fun, but at the same time, it sounds like it could be incredibly frustrating because it's also unfair, because it increases the likelihood of certain things to happen. And it's like, well, that doesn't make it more fun for me, because if I don't know something's going to happen and this is just RNG, or if it's just this is now what happens as a result of me turning on this difficulty, what is the draw? What is pulling me towards that difficulty? If it automatically makes me lose, if it makes it harder for me, or if it makes the game damn near impossible for me to beat, what is the point of doing that? That to me is the biggest flaw that games have. They don't understand there's a balance. If you're going to have a difficulty setting, you have to have it be balanced.
Yeah.
I'm not
well,
saying that's
here's the thing too, and just kind of branching off the XCOM, it's like it's not game over when that happens. It is absolutely completely frustrating, but it's not necessarily game over. Do you fail the mission? Yeah, you failed the mission. Did you just lose 4 of your best troops? Yeah, you just lost 4 of your best troops, but it's not like you can't go into another mission and then use your B team, because you got to have, if when you're playing that game, you got to be strategic, and of course, you got to have a B team, and now you have to start using your B team. Your B team is now your A team at that point. It's you're right on the fact that sometimes things like that will happen, but it doesn't mean game over necessarily, and B, it's kind of like real life. It's just it happens and you didn't see it coming.
So to that point, I guess I have a follow-up question to that. Is that something where you feel as though the game teaches you that you have to be more strategic and have what do they call those, contingency plans if something does go awry?
It's a whole strategy game. Yeah.
No, I appreciate that. And I based off of what you said with the spaces and stuff like that, I understand it's a strategy game. That makes sense to me, but that's something that I can absolutely respect. Because if you're just putting all of your resources into training or making your A team more powerful, that's fine. But what happens when you come across that one monster, like you said, that one berserker alien that busts out of the wall and wipes your team? Your B team is so shitty that it's not going to be able to kill one enemy, even the lowest form of that enemy, in the next level. So yeah, I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that, because that does force you to have a different perspective when it comes to those types of games. I can respect that, but that's what I mean. Is like that, like you said though. I mean, that's what's crazy to me is that not 90% of games don't have that. They just have well, you know what? You're on a higher difficulty, therefore the enemies hit you 200% damage, and you hit them for 50%. It's like, how's that remotely fair? How does that make that a fun game?
A bad example version of that, Mike, instead of XCOM, is a game that has the same gameplay, but it's Fire Emblem Birthright. There's like this there's like this stupid difficulty spike in that game where you can't fucking do anything about it except grind little side missions that give you minuscule amounts of experience that cheaply elongates the game now. And like it compared to XCOM, you still have RNG with your with your team. Whatever team you recruit in, you have like a random roll of their stats. But like with the Fire Emblem, you only have like a set number of people that you have, and of course every time they level up, it's RNG as well for their stats. But they don't come in with RNG stats. When they start off, their stats are static. They'll be same. Like if I play Fire Emblem Birthright and Mikey has a copy, and we have the same character starting off, they'll have the same exact stats. And so like it creates like this really bad problem, especially with that portion of the game. I forget what like the actual series of it is called, because it's made of 3 games. It's made of Birthright, Conquest,
Fates,
and
right? Isn't that
Fates? Thank you. Yeah, Fates. Fates is like the worst example of all of that. It's like I liked it for like the first 19 missions, and then it was just like fuck you.
I remember how frustrated you were with that, because Octar, you would text me and it would be like weeks later and you'd be like, I'm still stuck on this fucking chapter.
I'm still stuck, dude. Like I trained them and I got money, I got better swords, I upgraded my swords. What am I doing wrong? I'm not even bringing flyers anymore. Like
right. And then it kind of goes back to what Mike you said at the very beginning. What are you going to do in that situation, Octar? Are you eventually going to be able to make a breakthrough? Or are you, as an individual, as a human being, just as a normal human being, going to rely on the internet to give you that information and find that meta?
Dude, I did that.
Exactly.
That's exactly what I did. That's exactly what I fucking did, dude.
And I agree. I think that is what is wrong with games these days. And I think that is why I do agree to an extent that the internet has caused a decline in, or has caused, games have therefore declined in quality as a result. And that's why it's just the way things are, because games don't have, if it's not something that's like clear, or if you've done all the exploring, you've done all the side missions, and you're still not able to do anything, what else are you going to do? You're going to fucking look up something and be like, how do you do this? And then someone's going to be like, oh, well, you're supposed to buy this weapon, and then you have that upgrade, and then therefore you just one hit KO everything. And you're like, oh, okay, that's easy. It's unfortunate, because we as human beings are always trying to find the easiest way to do things, the easiest and most efficient and effective ways to do things. As a result, the internet is there for us. But it does cause a detriment when it comes to potentially allowing us to enjoy the game to its fullest based off of what the game designers had in mind. And that's, I agree. I'm not even going to lie. It took me about 3 hours to get through Blighttown today in Dark Souls Remastered. I almost texted you, Mike, and be like, fuck Blighttown. I fucking hate this place. These fucking dogs, these fucking ghouls. I'm going to fucking stab a fucking child.
All this poison.
The fucking, those dudes are blow darts. Like, fuck those guys.
Yeah, dude.
I memorized now, motherfuckers. I'm just like, all right, he's up there. I'm going to go the fuck up there. I'm going to kill that guy. But then it's like, it's one of those things where the game slightly rewards you, but at the same time, you're just like, fucking finally, I'm out of it.
Yeah.
So it's a relief.
Like Dark Souls, I think, is always a cool example of that stuff, because like I know that game backwards and forwards, and I can't say that about a lot of games, even games I've played a bunch of times. But it's because Dark Souls is such like an active thing. Like, you can't passively play Dark Souls. You have to really pay attention to what you're doing, and if you're going through it, without any kind of guide or whatever, you have to like really pay attention to your surroundings and enemy placement and all that stuff. And it becomes so like ingrained in you in a way that like other games don't usually. And I think that's really cool. But I will say, just to put a little like, wrap a bow on top of this like internet thing, internet's great. It's helped a lot of things too, but there's one big detriment to games that no one here has talked about. And
updates?
Patches. That's putting out fucking unfinished games and saying, don't worry, we'll patch it later.
You and I hate those very much equally, Mikey.
And understand. I get it. Game design is a hard thing, and it's only gotten more complicated. And I will say right now, I will wait as long as it takes for a game to become finished. And frankly, too, games don't need to be these giant 300-hour things. I will play a good 20-hour game. I don't. Yeah. To me, time does not matter. In fact, as an adult with little free time, I want to play more short games. I think that's great. That's kind of why I've been getting into Resident Evil now is because they're all relatively short. Resident Evil 4 is one of the longer ones, but even then, you could probably beat it in 16 hours. So I mean, like, it's not incredibly long, and like that's awesome. But like, yeah, nowadays that's the issue is like, hey, we can make this game. It may not be finished or maybe super buggy or whatever, but we'll just update it later because we can. Couldn't get away with that shit back in the earlier days without updates. Like you had to ship a finished game or yeah.
I think that it's funny because even though I mentioned Bethesda, I didn't bring it up because for me, unfinished games in Bethesda are like peanut butter and jelly.
They just go together. It just works.
They're terrible. They're terrible, and I think that is just the way that they. I think it's one of those things where, unfortunately, I know Bethesda wasn't the first game, but it's probably one of the more. Their games are some of the more prominent ones that have mods, and they, for some fucking unknown reason, besides it being easier for them, decide, hey, every 6 years we're going to put something out on the same engine that have the same better graphics, but in fact they're just gonna chug because your PC can't keep up with their bullshit. It's funny to me because it's like Bethesda innately allows their games to be modded. They allow that there's like loopholes that they purposely put in there so you can plug things in, and then they try to make money off of it with Fallout 4, and they can go fuck themselves because that's a piece of shit thing to do. That's like Jeff Bezos opening an orphanage. Don't fucking do it, dude. You're just gonna skim money off the top. We both know it, Jeffy. Just don't. All right, buddy. But it's like it's such a common sense thing too. Like, if you're gonna put a game out, make it as complete as possible. Understand that yes, there's gonna be updates. There's gonna be things that you're gonna have to change. There's gonna be things that you find you didn't realize when you were testing it. Bugs that people are randomly gonna find. Shit like that happen. I totally get it. Don't put a game out to the point where it is such a monstrosity that it's not unplayable. I think that's really what it is. And Mike and I have always liked the Game Grumps, but we've both fallen off of them in recent years. But the thing that I think that is hilarious to me is that it's one of those things where they tend to play a lot of unfinished games, but they also were the ones that really kind of opened my eyes, like because they were people that I watched and that I quote unquote looked up to at the time. They said, they're like, I don't get it. They're like, you have all of this time, you have all this money. Why are you rushing? Why are you rushing to put this game out? Why are you pushing so hard for this to get out by Christmas or by Thanksgiving or the summer or the beginning of the year? Why are you pushing so hard for that? Why can't you just wait and sit on it and be able to create something?
It's that Christmas money, man. They want that holiday money.
It's for that very reason, and it's for the
baby.
fact that they know that we can put out this game now. We can get the holiday money or whatever, and then we can worry about everything later. And again, post-launch support is a fine thing. If you're going to continue to add content to a game, I think that's a really cool thing.
No problem with that.
But if the game itself is fundamentally unfinished or fundamentally broken, again, it's the cyberpunk thing, right? Like, no one, not one person on that development team thought that game was ready. But it didn't fucking matter because the suits up at the top were like, well, we got to put this game out and we got to fucking start recouping this money we put into it.
Oh, bro, that was terrible.
I think one of the funniest things is that what I was going to say before I even brought up Cyberpunk was I would hate to be the accountants at Bethesda, but imagine being the accountants for the Cyberpunk team. Just knowing how fucking you are, and then having to report that to the suits, and knowing that the only thing that they're able to do is push that game out of development, out to the market, so that way they can try and recoup money in order to keep people employed, which I can respect, but also to make money. Because let's admit it. I mean, fucking, there's so many people out there that make money out that are overpaid for what they do.
And listen, I don't know. I don't know all the fucking financial information for CD Projekt Red, but I don't think it's a situation where it's like, God, we gotta get Cyberpunk out or we're going bankrupt. Like, no, they do fine.
No,
they've made so much money off of the fucking Witcher 3 and continue to. They've got their own fucking storefront, GOG. Yeah. Like, I don't think that was an issue at all.
They're not hurting for it.
Yeah.
They're not.
So I didn't know that they did GOG.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They make a lot of money off GOG.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, a lot of people bought Cyberpunk 2077 as well off of GOG, so then like they could so then CDPR could actually retain the majority of the profits for
Isn't
it. Because...
GOG like based out of? It's not in America. GOG, I believe, because I remember having that issue with my bank because they were like, you tried to buy a game and apparently it's coming from like Ukraine or some shit. If they're processing this in like the fucking Ukraine, they were like,
Well,
that's a red flag.
Well,
You're
because
trying to spend
CD
$50.
Projekt Red aren't. What do I want to say?
They're
like
a Swedish company, right?
Swedish? Is it Swedish?
That's what it was. Yeah.
Right?
I think so.
Milan or something like that. It was some random country. It was some random city.
Scandinavian
in some
of some sort. No. But
right. Yeah, and that. Yeah.
Come on.
Scandinavian, Swedish, Russian, whatever.
They're Vikings.
It is interesting because
They're Vikings.
they're Vikings. But yeah, I think Vikings would have a little more honor than to be able to put out Cyberpunk. So sorry. I think that is very frustrating because I think something that has always been in the back of my mind, and it's never a game that I'll ever play, but it's always been in the back of my mind as a telltale sign that you should never go out of your way to pre-order something or be super hyped for a game is No Man's Sky. That is that set a new bar for fucking like that just set a new bar and like that's one of those things where they of course people have said the game's gotten better, but it's the same and then but who was first? It was No Man's Sky, and then who came out after that? 76, and who came out after that was what was that game, Mo? The EA game?
Anthem.
Started with what was it?
Anthem.
Anthem.
Who came out after that? Cyberpunk 2077. They just have gotten into a groove of doing it.
Bro, Anthem was okay, bro.
Anthem sucked, dude.
I remember there was a story that I read about Anthem. It's the funniest thing. So they had like, all right, so they did like a test run for the game, and they wanted the CEO of the company to play, CEO of EA to play the game a little bit, kind of try it out and stuff. And it was at the time where they took out flying, or the jetpacks and stuff, but for him to play it, for him to play it, he was like, they still had him play the demo where the flying was still involved. And so he's like playing it, and he's like, oh yeah, this flying mechanic is super fucking great. And then like everyone on the team looked at each other like, we gotta put that shit back in right now.
Put that back in.
Yeah, and listen, all it's not even that great, but that is the best part of the game is like the flying mechanic, and the greatest thing too is like they hamper it where it's just like it fucking overheats and you gotta go underwater to cool it down and shit like that. It's like, just let me have fun. This is the one fun fucking thing you put in your piece of shit garbage fucking game. And you gotta hamper it. You gotta neuter it. You can't let me just have fun. What an absolute nightmare of a game.
You gotta pay the extra $10 for the additional gas,
Such
bro.
fucking shit, dude. You know where I stopped playing? There's at one point where, in order to like open up progress, you had to do a bunch of these little like mini missions, like kill this many enemies with this weapon, do this, do that, and I'm just like, go fuck yourself. I'm not even interested enough to continue going forward. But I figured if it was just simple, like go and beat the game, fine. But then it stops you, it halts you. It's like, no, wait, hold on, go do a bunch of this inane bullshit before you can continue our piece of shit garbage game. And I was like, fuck off, I'm done. I hate that game. I hope everyone involved with that game burns in hell forever. Say hi to my friend Brian while you're down there.
He's not.
Oh god.
Oh man, that was the worst. I also like this is the same thing that happened with this. The whole development team was just being fucking just used like ragdolls throughout that whole project. It's just like, can you just let us do our work, please? Because like they changed the format like 4 different times. Like, dude, stick with the thing. Stick with one thing. Pick one thing and do that one thing fantastically. How do you think Mario is? He can do 2 things. He can run and jump. How the fuck did you make an amazing game out of just those 2 things, dude? Just to have a thing and do good instead of having all of the things.
The Akhtar Alam game design handbook. Have a thing, do good.
Yeah, that's it. That's it, dude.
I agree. 100%.
Oh,
Well, boys, I think we got ourselves
complicated it a little bit. Oh,
Oh, were you gonna say something else?
We're good. We're good.
Yeah. Well, just to make sure the VOD doesn't go too loud. But yeah, I think we got ourselves a podcast here. That was a conversation about fucking video games and other shit. Well, thank you so much for stopping by. As always, these are recorded live via Twitch on Wednesday nights, 7:30 Central. If you want to stop by and type in the chat and ask us questions or whatever, you are more than welcome to do so. Otherwise, these go up on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud on Sunday. So look forward to that. And yeah, we got lots of shit. YouTube, Twitch, Lotus Fire Studio. You know where to find us. Anything else, boys?
I went pee again.
Stay breezy.
Mike went pee again. Mike, you thank you so much for joining us today and peeing.
Of course. I appreciate
just
you
peeing.
having me on the eve of my bladder exploding. I appreciate you having me.
Always.
And as they say in the Vatican, rest in peace, Brian.
Rest in peace,
Rest
Brian.
in peace, Brian.
Rest in peace.
God
bless his soul.
Or
God bless his soul.
Satan rest his soul.
Satan rest his soul.
Satan take him down south, baby.
It's not dead.
He's in Tallahassee.
He's in Tallahassee. Bye.
Bye.
One.